Hello and welcome to another NihongoGamer video. Very excited because the PlayStation 5 showcase has just completed. Now it's like 6 AM here in Japan, and so I'm quite sleepy. I did enjoy a small cup of coffee while watching it. I haven't actually gone to sleep yet tonight. I was actually kind of too excited about watching this PlayStation showcase, so even when I did go to bed, I just sort of sat there thinking like, I really want to wake up and just wait for the PlayStation showcase to go. Anyway, we're going to start at the end of the presentation because, interestingly enough, at the end of the presentation, in the fighting game world, a lot of people see the PlayStation 5 as a console that's going to be used at tournaments. And if this is going to be used for esports, then we want a console that has USB ports. At least they need to be the same, because when we plug our controllers in for low latency fighting game use, we don't want to have one person going into a USB-C port and another person playing wirelessly. And even if it's USB-C and USB-A, it's like, is one of them going to be faster than the other? And then people are going to be complaining about lag between the two ports. So I do think it was quite important to show the USB ports on the console. And from what I see here on this video at the end of the presentation, is it looks to me like there are two USB-A ports, but they're USB 3 speed, which is why they're blue. And this is actually something I didn't even realize until a few years ago. Like, looking at my laptop, I was like, oh wait, the USB 2 ports are normal colored and the USB 3 ports are blue. Had no idea. This is what was causing some concern in earlier presentations of the PlayStation 5, because we could see that there was what looked like a USB-C port and also a USB-A port, but a lot of people saw a lightning mark next to it and thought, okay, maybe that's only for charging. You can see right there, it is two USB-A ports there on the back of the console with the HDMI port and also the Ethernet port. So obviously it will be able to plug into high-speed internet, which is not going through wireless, which is also a major concern for people who like to play fighting games. Anyway, I don't just want to talk about fighting games. PlayStation Plus Collection coming to PlayStation 5. So I assume that this is included in your PlayStation Plus subscription, which we already pay if we want to use the online functionality on our PS4s. But this is a fantastic move because obviously building games for PlayStation 5 is going to take time. It's going to be a lot of work because, again, every time the game consoles get higher in resolution, people expect even more detail and even more high-res models, and it's good to have an expanded library at the start of the console because, first of all, it's going to cost like, what, $500, right? If it's going to be a large, expensive console, people want lots of stuff to play, and people are used to picking up a game for like a day or a weekend and then streaming it and then moving on to the next game after that, right? So the world's very fast-paced. This makes a lot of sense, having an instant sort of game library, which is what Microsoft calls their games, isn't it? They call it like the Microsoft Instant Game Library or something like that. Oh, interesting. I was not expecting the digital edition to be so much cheaper than the standard PlayStation 5. By taking the disc drive out, I don't see how Sony can save $100. I assume that it only reduces the manufacturing cost of the console by like $20 or $30. But they're giving people a massive discount because they want to encourage software download sales. That makes a lot of sense because if they can encourage people to stop buying discs, then they're much more likely to make first-hand profit because obviously, even though it helps the business to have a second-hand market, if you sell a game to your friend for $50 after you bought it for $60, then Sony never sees the $60 and the $50. They only see the first-hand sale, that's $60 of whatever game it is that you wanted to sell to your friend. So I have to admit, PlayStation 5 Digital Edition being $100 cheaper than the PlayStation 5, that's very tantalizing indeed. Of course, personally, I'm going to be going for the PlayStation 5 because I want the ability to buy the game on disc. And obviously, when you're running a YouTube channel, there will be certain games that you want to buy and then discover that you don't actually want to play them that much and you want to sell that game to someone else. So personally, I'm going to be going for the disc version, but if I weren't running a YouTube channel, I would probably just go for the digital edition. It's a nice discount to have right at the start when you're spending a lot of money on new consoles and stuff. I'm impressed. I really thought it was only going to be about $50 cheaper. And here are the release dates: November 12th for the US, Japan, Canada, Mexico, Australia, New Zealand, and South Korea. Interestingly enough, it does not include the UK or any of Europe, it seems. For the rest of the world, November 19th. A week later, which is a shame, and Europe will be upset about that, I'm sure. Now let's talk about the games that they talked about this time. I was actually very impressed because I think the very first title, I was not expecting Square to announce a new Final Fantasy. This is Final Fantasy XVI, I believe, just to double check. Final Fantasy XVI. Now, you have to be careful with Squaresoft announcements because when they said Final Fantasy XIII was coming out, then like a couple years later, we got Final Fantasy XIII, but they also had a trailer for Final Fantasy Versus 13. And that ended up being Final Fantasy 15, which came out like a decade later or more, I can't remember. It was a very long time afterwards. So as much as I love Squaresoft, it's entirely possible that this game will not come out for the next like 10 years. But there was some nice gameplay footage of the game in action. It looks like there's this boy who is royalty. He's going to be protected by this dude here. I've sworn to protect you. And then what's really funny is how, like, I think they're appealing to the boomer generation, because right at the end, they're like, I am a hero. I'm also growing old. And I think it's like, this is what I looked like when I got into Final Fantasy, and this is what I look like now. I thought that was quite entertaining. Anyway, gameplay-wise, it looks like they probably are just using a lot of the engine stuff from Final Fantasy 15 to give you an idea of what the game is going to look like, but I assume that even if they are using the FF15 engine, it will look quite a bit different to what we're being shown here. Some battle scenes, people on fire, Phoenix, Ifrit, all sorts of exciting stuff. So that's that for Final Fantasy XVI, also available on PC, it says. And then we got footage of Miles Morales, Spider-Man. This looks quite exciting. I'm going to be honest, I was kind of making a coffee during this part of the presentation, so I'm aware that it's going to look great, but I wasn't really paying attention to it too intently. Now, this was the real surprise for me. Harry Potter is still a thing. People are still making games for this. It looks a lot more like people who grew up with Harry Potter but want a deeper looking kind of MMO style or more serious looking RPG style game. And that's what this looked like it was going to be. This scene in particular, like this looks like it came straight out of Final Fantasy 15, right? This dude going up against this wild boar who's like bowling towards him. This is a Harry Potter game. Look at that. He's a beastly looking fella. Like, were there enemies like this in Harry Potter? I don't remember being this Lord of the Ringsy before. If there's one thing I'd like to see evolve with Harry Potter is the way that they hold their tool. I realize that the tool, you know, this is the standard way to hold a magic wand, but it would be cool if there was a little more. I don't want them to go full Rey Skywalker like this, but it would be nice if they had other tools that they could hold, or I don't know, just maybe different grips for their wands so they could be ready for the attack. But it's always like this, as if they're like on guard. Everything looks so cool now except for the stance with which they're holding their wands. Still looks kind of, I don't know. It's just like their standing stance hasn't really evolved. Every single attack they do just involves pointing it as far out as possible, but it's magic. All I really want to see them is do more cool stances like this, where they're holding it like a dagger and they're crossing their arms and doing all sorts of cool poses that are to do with the magic. Basically, anime does it well. Why can't Harry Potter? Hogwarts Legacy. Then there were some shooting games. I'm not super into first-person shooter games usually, but I have to admit, by watching this, I was like, whoa, I really want to get involved in this game. There's this hilarious moment in the trailer where he's like, okay, that's our guy. You've got to take him out. So he gets out the sniper rifle. So watch this. He picks up the scope and he has it in his sights for literally 9 frames, which is 1/6 of a second. This man spends all of 1/6 of a second looking down his sniper rifle. I was like, whoa, aren't you actually gonna aim that thing? Of course, he shoots and he misses his target. He's just like, whoops, you shot the wrong guy. It's like, I realize that's not the point of this scene, but I just thought that was quite funny. And in any case, it's part of the story. He's supposed to miss, and then they go on this cool car chase, and I don't know. It's what's really interesting about this is that I know nothing about this game, this franchise, or play many first-person shooter games at all, but I was like, hey, I will probably like to try this on PlayStation 5 when it comes out, so successful trailer. Resident Evil 8 looked kind of exciting. The one thing that did kind of surprise me about Resident Evil 8 was the way that they switch back and forth between this visual style. There's this little bit where they're like using visuals from Coraline to tell some weird fable where the girl runs off to pick the roses, and in the process she gets eaten by the zombies. So it's super like claymation looking in style, and then all of a sudden it just like returns back to being human visuals, and it's like, by the way, it's still Resident Evil. I was like, what's going on? For a little while, I actually thought they'd actually moved on to the next trailer. Anyway, I'm sure Resident Evil will be fantastic. This game looks kind of interesting. Deathloop, it's going to have some time travel shenanigans. It looks like you're a Jedi, but you're running around with a gun. It feels like the sort of game that was designed to work well in VR as well. I wonder if this has anything to do with PlayStation VR. Actually, they haven't really talked about VR at all with PlayStation 5, have they? I know they've mentioned that they plan to continue VR, but I haven't seen any demonstrations of any stuff. Not sure how this works, but this dude he's using his left hand to raise the guy up in the air, and then he's like force throwing him to the right, like that, into the window. That looks like the sort of thing that happens in Half-Life Alyx. So that's why it made me that's why it reminded me of VR, and I was like, oh, I wonder if PlayStation is still in there with the VR. Maybe Deathloop is going to be a game that you can play with controller or in VR. I wonder. I have no idea. I was just speculating. We got a look at DMC 5 Special Edition. I never played any of the DMC games, so I may as well get started with this one. What is the name of this game again? Oddworld Soulstorm. Didn't play the original when it was on the IBM 386 or the 486 or whatever processor. I think I had like a 16 megahertz computer. I think maybe I had a demo of this game as a kid. I'm sure this is going to be fantastically good fun as well. And then this, I was actually quite impressed because I haven't played a lot of Five Nights at Freddy's, but while it was just going through these environments, and especially because it was only forward and backward movement, it kind of reminded me of the only forward and backward movement in Five Nights at Freddy's. I was like listening to the voices, they're like, Gregory, and then I was seeing like the creepy faces of the smiling crocodile or the alligator, whatever you'll call him. And then I saw the dog head statue, and I was like, aha, it is definitely Five Nights at Freddy's. And then there's a jump scare in the trailer, and I was like, huh, I like it. For a video for Let's Play Japan, they're like, let's play some horror games. And I got really into Five Nights at Freddy's, and I was like, yeah, we should totally play more of this. I was actually kind of too scared to continue playing it, but I really wanted to play more of it. So I'm kind of keen to try this on PlayStation 5 as well. Obviously, I'm not going to try all of these games. I'm not made of money, but I definitely want to try Five Nights at Freddy's and see how it's evolved graphically. Demon Souls, I've never played Dark Souls or Bloodborne, but it looks fantastically great. And the lighting effects, especially in this trailer, right here, when he walks through this part here, I thought the lighting on this scene was especially nice. Again, I'm no expert when it comes to ray tracing, but this looked like it was very, very realistic, and I was like, whew, this is some tasty lighting going on here in Demon Souls, so I'm looking forward to that. And then the collection, which I spoke about earlier, about how they're going to have the instant library of PlayStation 4 classics available with your PlayStation Plus subscription for PS5. I think it's a fantastic strategy, seeing as a lot of people buying PS5 will be, first of all, people who skipped PS4 entirely, maybe, but even people who owned PS4, like myself. I haven't played a large number of these games that they showed here, so it's like, I will definitely be taking advantage of my PlayStation Plus subscription to play these apparently classic games from the PS4 era that I missed out on. And then finally this, it looks like it was some kind of hint. It's called Ragnarok, but it's some kind of hint towards maybe a new God of War game. That's what they were saying in the chat. Again, I've played a little bit of God of War on PlayStation 2, but I haven't played much since then. All very exciting stuff. Anyway, the highlight for me was definitely seeing a new Final Fantasy, and I was very impressed that they started the show with this. I think it's likely that we're not going to see this game until 2025. I think it's going to be a long time before we actually see this game, but I am quite excited. That's just who I am. I'm into RPGs more than first-person shooters or all the other type of content that they showed us. But I have to admit, as a presentation, they did a great job of getting me excited about a bunch of genres of games that I'm usually not super excited about. Honestly, this was probably the most important scene for me, is just being able to see the back of the console, power plug, HDMI, Ethernet, 2 USB-A ports for your arcade sticks. I'm happy. Great presentation. Thanks, Sony. I'm going to buy 10 of them. I'm only going to buy one of them. Now the question is, do I want the one with the disc drive or do I buy the digital edition? Nah, I'm still going to go with the disc drive. But I think it's really important that they have it at such a low price point for the digital edition because one, it will encourage digital sales. Not that I'm a big proponent of that. I do think that physical has a very important place in the game economy. But from Sony's point of view, it makes sense to get people on board with the whole idea of just buying games digital. And to be honest, when it gets down to Christmas, parents are going to be told that the kids want a PlayStation 5. They're going to go to the shops. They're going to see two options. One has a disc drive, one doesn't. One is $500, one is $400. And I'll tell you which one they're going to buy. It's going to be the one that's $400. So if you're asking your parents to buy you a PlayStation 5 for Christmas, expect that they're going to get you the digital one, whether you like it or not. And on that note, I'm looking forward to November 12th and November 19th when PlayStation 5 comes out. I'm very, very excited. I can't wait to get my hands on one. And also, especially excited about being able to get my hands on the PlayStation Plus collection and play all of those games that I never played on the PlayStation 4. Super excited. Can't be happier. Have you decided which one you're going to buy then? PlayStation 5 with the disc drive or the all digital edition? Let me know in the comments section below. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure you click that notification bell and you subscribe to the channel so you always know when new videos are coming out. And I'll see you all in the next NihongoGamer video.